So, welcome everyone. For those of you who didn't hear the announcement, I'm hosting the meeting from Sarah's place here and up in Edmonton. And Mark's tuning in from Toronto. And we got our gang there in Canmore. I can see all of you now. So tonight, I'm going to talk about Anapanasati, mindfulness of in and out breathing. And I'm doing this because we've just finished our whole series on the gradual training, and the gradual training being the fleshing out of the Noble Eightfold Path, the path that the Buddha described to the end of suffering. So just a quick review. We've already ticked off the fact that we're all here together, means we've ticked off the first 3 steps. Means we've heard the teachings and we're curious enough or inspired enough or interested enough to hang around to see, are the teachings going to deliver the goods? Are we going to be happier following this path? And then the next thing that we have to do is clean up our morality. And for most of us, we're not doing really horrible things. So it's referring to our speech, getting rid of that sarcastic, angry, demeaning things that slip out at times. So really working on cleaning up our speech. And then it's not just not doing the things that that aren't good. It also means making an effort to do the things that are wonderful, like being kind, being compassionate, being generous. So that's a very important step in our lay life. And then the other huge step in our lay life is dealing with the hindrances, those things that are going to hinder us from the path, from accomplishing going down the path. And if you've forgotten some of these things, you can go back and look at the videos to review. So we're doing things like wise reflection, contentment, various techniques to help us to calm down the gross parts of the hindrances. So the gross parts are our behaviors and our speech. And then it's in our meditation practice that we're going to work on the more subtle, which is what's going on in our thoughts. The final frontier, the one that's going to take us years to to work on. So it's after we've sort of cleaned up our morality and settled down the hindrances so they're not grabbing at us, so they're not shouting at us, that we can actually come to the 7th step of the Eightfold Path, Sammasati, right mindfulness, which is actually describing our meditation practice. So all the first 6 steps are done off of the cushion in our daily life to prepare us, to prepare our mind so that when we sit down, it's settled enough, it's calm enough that we can bring ourselves into the present moment and be with a meditation object. And tonight we're going to focus on the breath as a meditation object. The other very common meditation object is metta, loving friendliness. But tonight we're going to focus on the breath, Anapanasati. So it's when we've done these first 6 steps that we're ready to sit down and be calm enough and collected enough that we can be in the present moment, be in a secluded place, be with our meditation object, in this case, the breath, and bring ourselves to the the 8th, the final step of the path, which is Samadhi, right stillness, another word for the jhana states. So I'm just going to, I've made a share screen here. So I'm bringing up step 7, which is the Samasati, right mindfulness, which the Buddha said was equivalent to the Satipatthana, which are the 4 focuses of mindfulness. So when we're ready to sit down and do our meditation practice, there are 4 things that we can focus on, and these happen sequentially. So we start with the body, and then, as I said, tonight we're going to focus on the breath, Anapanasati. And you can see that there's other possibilities there, talking about 31 body parts or 4 elements. So I'll talk about that in a moment. And then the other is going to evolve. So we start with the coarsest object, which is the breath, and then that's going to evolve into a very pleasant feeling tone. And then we're going to experience the mind. And then when we come out of Samasati, Samasamadhi, then we can look at the laws of nature, which brings us to the insights that result in awakening. So what the Buddha told us is that mindfulness of breathing, when developed and cultivated, fulfills these 4 kinds of mindfulness meditation. So this makes it really easy. You don't have to, it just makes meditation very simple. Once you've done the preliminary steps, you've worked on your speech and action, you've worked on settling down the hindrances, you come to your cushion, you sit down to do meditation. We just have to focus on the breath. We don't have to worry about anything else. So I'm going to go through these four different parts. So the Anapanasati Sutta and the Satipatthana Sutta, the teachings, they start off the same way. They're saying, go to a quiet place and then establish mindfulness. So establishing mindfulness means instead of your mind just going out and jumping around to all different kinds of topics, you're bringing it into this present moment. And a beautiful way to sort of do that, to do the transition from off the cushion to on the cushion, is to do a body scan. Just go through the physical body, part by part, just relaxing all the different parts. And then that just is a really nice, easy way to bring you from being scattered to just being right in the present moment. So that's just getting yourself set up. And then you come to the first focus of mindfulness, which is the body. So if we're looking at the left-hand side of the screen here, the Buddha says, first of all, just be mindful of breathing in and out. So it's like one of the analogies he gave was of taming a wild horse. So if we think about our our mindfulness or our breath as sort of a wild horse. If you've captured that wild horse, you first of all put it in a large corral, give it lots of space to run around. So it's just saying, be aware enough that you go, oh, I'm breathing in now, or aware enough, oh, I'm breathing out. And it doesn't matter if your mind wanders a little bit, because we're just at stage one of taming this wild horse. So just being mindful of, oh, a breath's coming in and the breath's coming out. And then when our wild horse starts to settle down a bit, then we can put it into a bit of a smaller corral. And now we just give our mind something to do to just be a little more interested in that breath. And the Buddha suggests being mindful of, like, is this a long breath or a short breath? So you're with the breath long enough to, enough of the breath to sort of notice if it's kind of a longish breath or a shortish breath or a medium. And it really doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter how long that breath is. It's just a little trick to just get your mind interested in this meditation object of the breath. Just putting in a smaller corral, getting it to pay a little bit more attention. So you're not just, knowing, oh, it's going in, it's going out. Now it's like, oh, it's this kind of a length. Then as our breath settles, or we're starting to be more settled, more focused, then we put that wild horse in an even smaller corral. And now we're going to be mindful of the entire breath. So you're going to notice the first moment you start to breathe in, you stay with the breath, feel what it feels like as it's coming in, and then notice when it stops coming in. And then notice if there's a little pause before you start breathing out, or maybe you start breathing out right away, but you're noticing that. So you're noticing the first moment you start to breathe out, staying with the breath the whole time it's going out, and then noticing when you stop breathing out. And then again, notice, is there a little pause? And then maybe not, doesn't matter. And then you notice the first breath in again. So now you're being aware of the entire breath. And you're doing this in a very relaxed manner. And the analogy I like is lying on the beach. You're on a beach holiday. You can hear the waves of the ocean coming in and coming out. And those waves of the ocean are just like your breath. So when you're lying on a beach and you're listening to the waves, you're not controlling those waves. You're just experiencing the sound of them coming in and out. So it's the same thing with your breath. You're not trying to control your breath in any way, shape, or form. You're just lying there on the beach, totally relaxed and noticing this breath as it comes in, this breath as it goes out. Very relaxed, no tension. We're letting our will, we're letting our doer have a holiday. We're just asking the knowing part of our mind to be present. We're asking our doer to just go on holidays, take a break. Just having our knower knowing. And then the beautiful thing is this is all you have to do. And it's not even a doing, it's a knowing. This is all you have to know, because all the rest of this Anapanasati and this Satipatthana is going to happen. It's just going to unfold naturally. So the first thing that's going to sort of happen naturally is your breathing is going to calm. It's going to calm down, and eventually it's going to disappear. It's going to become so calm that you're not going to be aware of it. So what happens is it just becomes more and more subtle, and then it's like our mind can't keep up with the subtleness, so it loses track of it. The breath becomes so subtle, and the mind can't experience it anymore. But then eventually the mind catches up, and then it feels the breath, experiences the breath again. but it's not like the breath is coming and going. It's just getting more and more calm, more and more subtle, but the brain sort of loses it, and then it sort of gets used to the more subtleness of it, and then it'll feel it again. And then the breath will get calmer and the brain will lose it again, but then it'll catch up and then it'll experience it again. And this will go on for a while until it just is so subtle that your mind doesn't experience it as a physical sensation. It's going to experience it in an entirely different way. So the second focus of mindfulness is Vedana. Vedana is feeling tone. So feeling tone is not an emotion. It's more basic. It's that immediate, instantaneous experience that we have with any sensation, whether it's seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, or thinking. Whenever we see something, there's an immediate pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, or like, dislike, or neutral. Same thing. As soon as we hear something, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. As soon as we smell something, like, dislike, or neutral. Same thing for all the other sensations. So that's what's meant by Vedana. And then that can develop into something more elaborate, like desire or hate or something else. But this is just the really immediate, basic feeling tone. So what happens as the breath calms, as your mindfulness is more focused and is able to stay with the breath, then a natural thing to unfold is piti, which is a kind of joy. And there's also sukha, which is called happiness. Sometimes these are translated as rapture and bliss. Piti has just got sort of more energy to it, sort of a bit of movement, feeling of movement to it. And sukha is just more of a just, it's very beautiful, very full, but just smoother, quieter. And one of the analogies I got from Thich Nhat Hanh when I was at one of his retreats was that if you're out in hot desert and you're thirsty and parched and tired, and then you see this oasis in the distance, and when you see those green trees and that pool of water, like, that's joy. Like, any moment now I'm going to be, I can go swimming, I can drink cool water. So that's that sort of upwelling of excitement or piti or joy. And then you get there and you dive in and you cool off, and then you drink all the cool water you want. And you come out and you sit under the shady tree, and that's the sukha. And so I remember there were a lot of people at this retreat, and I think we were at some university campus. And after that little talk, we had a break, so we were all lined up at the washrooms, and of course there was like 20 people lined up for each cubicle. And we were all joking that when it became our next turn, when we were just standing outside the door of the cubicle, and it was our turn next, like, that was piti, that was joy, like, yes. And then when you had your pee and you came out, that was sukha. So I remember us all joking about that. And then the next part here is there's a calming, like, just this really, it's very beautiful. It's kind of like a peaceful swelling of these feelings, but it has more stillness to it. And this just happens naturally. It just unfolds naturally. The third focus is the mind. And the Buddha starts off by saying, experiencing the mind. So as I said, eventually you lose the sensation of the breath because it becomes so still. And now we experience the mind, we experience the breath in a different way. It's kind of like experiencing pure mind. Normally, in normal life, we're not experiencing the pure mind. It's like through the mind that we experience all the other senses. Our eyes see something, but then our mind interprets it, and then it gives us a message. Oh, I'm seeing something. Or the ears hear something, it goes through the mind, and then the mind tells us, oh, I'm hearing something. But now by this point, everything is settling down, becoming more and more subtle. We're not experiencing the breath. We're also starting to stop experiencing all the senses because we're not using them. They're just sort of turning off. So we're not seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. We're having this pure experience of the mind all by itself, not interpreting the senses, because the senses are shutting down because we're not employing them. We're not activating them. We're just having this experience of the mind all by itself, which is a very beautiful experience. And usually that starts off with, for most people, as a light. And at first, the light can be colored and moving, or maybe just pinpoint or whatever. So at that point, just ignore that. We're not going to focus on that until this nimitta, this sign, this sign of the pure mind, this light is filling our sort of field of view, filling our mind, and is stable and very still. That's the point where we can put our focus on that. The next step is called gladdening the mind, and Ajahn Brahm calls it shining up the nimitta. So usually he said one of the ways to do this is focus on the middle part, because the middle part might be the brightest, and just let that brightness fill up your sort of field of awareness. The next, immersing the mind in samadhi. So this is it just becoming very, very, very still. And then finally, liberating the mind. This is when you enter the jhana states, because now your mind is totally liberated from the sensory world. There's absolutely, the senses have all shut down. So there's no seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, or thinking. We're now in the first jhana. It's a sort of a sensory shutdown experience. The fourth focus of mindfulness, you're going to be having this experience, but you can't think about it. You definitely have amazing awareness. When you're in the jhana states, there's amazing clarity, amazing awareness. So you're going to be observing the impermanence of all those sensations, like everything's gone. Maybe if there was a bit of discomfort in the body, there's no body sensations anymore. That's gone. The breath is gone. Everything's gone. These are just sort of talking about the sort of stages of going into jhana, fading away, cessation, and letting go. How I think about letting go is when things end, we always have things ending. A beautiful sunset ends, or a tasty dinner ends, or more tragic things like the life of somebody that we know, somebody dies, but we can still be hanging on, like wishing that person hadn't died, or wishing that beautiful evening wasn't over. But there's, because in jhanas, there's no, our will is totally shut down. There's, our doer is not there to hang on. And so there is the experience totally of letting go. So as the sensations are fading and then stop, there's also a letting go, because the will is not there to hang on. But the thinking about this is going to happen after you come out of the jhanas, because there's no thinking in jhana. There's absolutely awareness. There's knowing, but there's no thinking. So this can be contemplated once you come out. So now I'm just going to go back here. So that's the breath, which the Buddha said completely fulfills Satipatthana. Now, if we come over here to the Satipatthana side, if you actually go and read the Satipatthana Sutta, they give a lot of different things that one can sort of focus on, but sort of historical researchers who've looked into this, they're very aware that many of those things were just sort of added in. They're sort of teachings of the Buddha, but they weren't in the original teaching when he gave it. And so they feel that so first of all, Anapanasati can totally fulfill this, the Satipatthana, but there were two other things that were mentioned that appear to be historically what the Buddha taught in the Satipatthana. And one is the 31 parts of the body, or the other is the 4 elements. You don't have to worry about these. As the Buddha said, mindfulness of breathing totally fulfills this. But Ajahn Brahmali said that this might be helpful for people who are having trouble settling the mind, having trouble focusing the mind on the breath. Then you can give it something more active to do, like go through the body and review all the various different parts of the body. So I'm not going to talk about how to do this. We have some old videos, previous videos where this has been taught. Same thing with the 4 elements. So there are other videos. So this is all you have to do is the breath. But if you really have trouble with that, then there's some alternatives to do initially to get yourself settled down so that you can focus on the breath. Then you'll notice if you read the Satipatthana Sutta, if we come back to Anapanasati, as I said, it's just a natural unfolding. All you have to worry about here is just being in the present with your breath, and everything else is just going to naturally happen. The breath is going to calm, and then you're going to have these beautiful feelings of piti and sukha, joy and happiness arise. But if you're reading the Satipatthana Sutta, they're talking about all kinds of feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. And what Ajahn Brahmali said in his workshop that he gave on the Satipatthana was, the Satipatthana is sort of giving you an outline of what you can do once you come out of jhana and you're working on insight. Now, insight, because you have such clarity, because there is such clarity when you're in jhana, and then for a while after you come out, insights can just happen just naturally. You don't have to really do anything. They can just happen naturally. But if they don't, you can just sort of give yourself a little tweak by directing your mind to these various things and just remembering pleasant things, unpleasant things, neutral things, and how you can look at the three characteristics, how they're impermanent, how they come and go, how they're unsatisfactory, how they have a not self nature. Mundane and supramundane Vedana. So this is referring to like pre-jhana, and these supramundane are these beautiful feelings like piti and sukha that happen while you're in the jhana states. That's what that means. And then here, there's a whole list of things that sort of up to here, they're referring to the hindrances. So again, when you come out of jhana and your mind is very clear, you can just direct it to remembering hindrances and looking at their impermanence, their unsatisfactoriness, and their non-self nature. These words here, expansive, supreme, liberated, that's referring to the mind in jhana. It just feels extremely expansive. And then here we are, the dhammas, the natural laws, just understanding how things arise, how to let them go. Yeah. So here's what he said. Anapanasati gives the framework of how to do meditation, and Satipatthana gives the idea of what to contemplate after coming out of meditation. And at the present moment, Ajahn Punadamo is giving a talk on these practices that can maybe help insights to arise. So I'll just leave this up here. And if you wanted to somehow copy that, he's just partway through this right now. He gives his talks live on, I believe it's Thursdays. It's Thursdays at 4 p.m. Alberta time, but they're all recorded, so you can go back and listen to them afterwards. Yeah. Okay.
Sanghamitta, could you copy and paste that to the chat by any chance?
Let me try that.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Now, so I'm going to have to stop share, I think, unless, oh, here's chat. I pushed, did that work?
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Got a
The
new
wizard.
Okay,
Perfect.
so
Thank you.
I can stop the share then because everybody can go into chat. What happens if I push the red? Can you still call up chat for yourself?
Yes, we can still go into the chat.
Okay. So I think that's all I wanted to say. So I just open this up for discussion or questions. And maybe just speak out, because there's more people, more little pictures on the screen. There's more than I can see. There's a little arrow saying there's more, so you'll just have to speak out, because I won't be able to see you waving your hand.
Sanghamitta,
Yes.
can you tell us, are there any techniques for making the breath object more coarse? For example, if you were using breath as your object of meditation, and then you found your mind wandering, or you found that you know, you were falling asleep and you needed something about the breath to retain some hyper focus, how could you modify the breath to achieve that?
Yeah. So I'll just I'll answer that question, but I'm just going to put in a little comment that Beth Upton gave to me. So you know, last March I had COVID and it just totally destroyed my ability to focus. So I had to do exactly what you're asking. I had to do something to make it quite coarse so that you know, because I just had zero ability to focus. So it's okay in a situation like that. Maybe, well, you have to decide when you're sleepy. Maybe you should be lying down and having a nap. But so I think in some situations it's okay to do this. But remember, I said that it's a natural thing for the breath to become more and more subtle. So that makes it harder to hang on to because it's harder to experience. And Beth Upton said, in that situation, absolutely do not go to something coarser because your mind is doing something natural. It's calming. The breath is calming. It's harder to stay with it. It's becoming more subtle. So yes, it's harder to stay focused. But she said, just accept that and just keep bringing your mind back, bringing your mind back, bringing your mind back. So in that situation, you don't want to make it more coarse. But there's going to be some situations where it's going to be appropriate. And what I did was I did the arm movement thing, and then I made it more subtle and just did it with my fingers. But the arm movement one is to like breathe in, breathe out, 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 breathe in, breathe out. So that's something that's very coarse. And then I made it more subtle by just doing some slight movements with my hand on my knee. I started off with the arms. So that's one possibility if you need to have a coarse object to start with.
Sanghamitta, how about a mantra? Would a mantra like a Buddha helps, or
Oh,
should we avoid that?
Oh no, absolutely. At the beginning, when you're first starting, a mantra is great or counting is great, you know, so either of those are very skillful means. So, yep. So that would be more subtle than this hand movement thing. The hand movement thing is quite coarse or quite gross. But if that's what your brain, like that's what my brain needed when I was recovering from COVID.
Okay, I have something else for you, Sanghamitta. I did see the light at one point, and it was a little wavy, and then it became really pointy, and then I got so excited that I lost it all.
That's very common. That's very common.
Okay. So what do I do if because it's been hard to find it back after that? I just
Yeah, it's just the big thing is not to be, we have to let go. We have to totally let go for all of these things to unfold. So if you have any desire, like desiring the light to come back, then you're killing it. So you have to, that's why I like the analogy, just lie on the beach, Just feel the breath come in, feel the breath go out. Just very relaxed, totally let go. Have your doer be on holidays, just your knower be there. And then make sure that you've got the prereqs. You're working on your morality, on your speech, you're working on kindness, generosity, compassion. You're working on all the various things to help tamp down the hindrances during daily life. So those are extremely important. It's not just what we do when we sit on the cushion. It's all those first 6 steps before we get. And then once you're on the cushion, it's let go, let go, let go. If we have any desires for some great experience, we've killed it. Okay, if there's nothing else, we can move to our ending, which hopefully Sarah will do for us. So Sarah, do you know where the book is? It's sort of behind the bench you're sitting on the floor there. And it'll be compassion.
Okay, I have it here. Can you hear me, Sanghamitta?
Yep, that's perfect. I'll mute myself and let you do the ending.
This is the meditation on compassion. Think of someone with great physical or mental suffering. While being aware of their particular difficulties, direct these compassionate phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Now direct the phrases to yourself. May I be free of my pain and sorrow. May I find peace. Think of someone who has been really supportive of you and direct the phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Now think of a neutral person and direct the phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Think of someone who is difficult and direct the phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. And finally, direct the phrases to all beings. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Remember that all beings face great potential suffering, no matter how fortunate their immediate circumstances may be. This meditation does not eliminate suffering. What we are doing is being able to acknowledge suffering, to open to it and respond to it with a tenderness of heart, which allows us to join with all beings and realize we are never alone.
May I make a request for sharing of merit?
Yeah.
I can't think of her name. You know, our friend that had the little daughter.
Oh, Kelly.
Kelly, yeah. I saw her yesterday and she's having difficulties and I'd like to make a request to put her name out for us to share America.
Sanghamitta, would you share merit?
May the merit of our practice be shared with all sentient beings, named and unnamed. Kelly, Sarah, Perez, Simon, Lise, Blair, Alex. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you, everyone.